Everyone thought Jasper would be mine. From the time we were children, people whispered it like prophecy. The golden omega and the rising alpha heir. I was perfect. Polite smiles, flawless manners, top grades, the omega every family envied. And Jasper was my constant. The boy who walked me home, the alpha who carried my books, the one who looked at me like I mattered. I believed he was mine. I built my life around that belief. That one day, when the bond came, it would be Jasper's mark on my neck. But fate laughed in my face. Because Jasper's bond didn't pull toward me. It pulled toward Eli, my younger brother. The one who never listened, never tried, never cared about perfection. The one who was allowed to be free while I wore chains made of expectations. And now he had the only thing I ever wanted. I can still hear Jasper's voice, calm and certain, like he wasn't shattering my world with every word. It's Eli. I can't fight it anymore. He's my mate. My vision blurred, rage burning hot behind my eyes. My smile, my cursed practice smile, wavered. I laughed, a hollow sound that tasted of blood. Eli. I spat his name like poison. You think he'll save you? Jasper, he'll ruin you. Just like he ruined me. The room went still. Eli flinched, guilt flashing across his face, but I didn't stop. The dam had broken, and the words spilled out raw and jagged. Every day of my life, I had to be perfect because he wouldn't. I had to wear the mask, smile, perform, pretend. I hated him for it. Hated the freedom he flaunted while I suffocated. And you were the only thing that felt real, Jasper. And now you let him take you too. My chest heaved, my throat raw. The silence afterward was suffocating. Eli's lips parted like he wanted to say something, but I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear him. I turned, walking out before they could see the tears burning down my face. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the perfect son. I was just broken. And that's when I knew I couldn't stay. I don't remember packing. I don't remember booking the flight. All I remember is the silence after Jasper's words, the hollow echo of my own rage, and the way the walls of that house closed in on me until I couldn't breathe. By the time dawn broke, I was on a plane. A single bag at my side. My suppressors tucked away in my pocket like a shield. I didn't even leave a note. When the flight attendant asked if I wanted something to drink, I stared out the window and whispered, "Whiskey." It burned all the way down, but the ache inside me was still louder. New York City hit me like a storm. The streets pulsed with horns, voices, sirens, laughter, curses. All of it alive, all of it unbothered by me. That was the beauty of it. No one knew me here. No one cared. For the first week, I wandered like a ghost. I tasted greasy street food at 2 a.m. I sat in parks and let the cold wind bite me until my teeth chattered. I stood on street corners, watching strangers live lives I'd never imagined. But freedom comes with a price. My savings wouldn't last forever, and I refused to crawl back home. That's how I found myself behind a bar at a dimly lit club downtown. The kind of place where the floor stuck to your shoes, the neon lights buzzed, and everyone pretended they weren't looking for trouble. "New boy's got a face that'll make us rich," the manager, a gruff beta, told me as he shoved a towel into my hand. "Smile, pour drinks, and don't piss off the regulars." I almost laughed. Smile. That, at least, I knew how to do. The first night was chaos. Shakers clattering, glasses shattering, drunk alphas slamming fists for attention. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt alive. No one cared if my bow tie wasn't straight, if I forgot to greet them properly, if I wasn't the picture of grace. They just wanted their drinks. It was messy. It was loud. It was imperfect. And it was mine. But bartending wasn't the only thing I did at night. There was another part of me I'd buried for years, a secret my parents hated. The part that wanted to dance. Not the rigid waltzes I was forced into as a child, but real dancing. Raw. Emotional. Mine. I found the studio by accident. A rundown building with a cracked mirror and floors that groaned underfoot. I paid cash to a sleepy landlord who didn't ask questions. And every night, after my shift at the club, I slipped into that room, stripped off the day, and let my body speak the words I couldn't. Spins sharp with anger. Jumps heavy with grief. Movements that tore me open until sweat and tears blurred together. At midnight, I wasn't the perfect omega. I wasn't Jasper's shadow. I wasn't Eli's brother. I was just Halo. And for a while, that was enough. But fate is cruel. It always is. Because it was in that club, under the neon lights, that I first saw him. The alpha whose eyes would cut through every wall I'd built. The club was buzzing tonight. Lights pulsed like a heartbeat, The crowd thick with bodies pressed too close, sweat and perfume hanging heavy in the air. I'd already broken 2 glasses and earned a glare from my manager, but I didn't care. For once, my hands didn't tremble with the weight of expectation. They trembled because I was alive. Then he walked in. I noticed him instantly. Not because he was loud, he wasn't. If anything, he moved too quietly for someone his size. Broad shoulders stretched the black fabric of his coat, his steps slow, deliberate, like he owned every square of sticky floor he touched. The music dipped for a second, or maybe it just felt that way, because all I could hear was the pounding of my heart. He didn't smile, didn't rush. He just commanded. People parted without realizing it, like shadows bending away from flame. And when he reached the bar, he didn't even look around. His storm-dark eyes locked on me. Whiskey. Neat. His voice was low, a rumble that seemed to scrape the air raw. I swallowed hard, fumbling with the bottle. Right. Whiskey. Got it. My fingers brushed the glass rim too fast, and a splash of amber liquor hit the counter. Smooth halo. Real smooth. He raised an eyebrow. Nervous. I shot him a tight smile, the one I'd perfected under my parents' roof. Only when people stare too hard. Maybe you should get used to it. He leaned closer, close enough that I caught the faint scent of smoke and leather clinging to his coat. You're worth staring at. My heart skipped. Damn him. He wasn't supposed to say things like that. Not here. Not when I was still bleeding from Jasper's rejection. So I laughed it off, sliding the glass toward him with a flare of bravado I didn't feel. Careful. Lines like that might make me think you're flirting. He took a slow sip, never breaking eye contact. Who says I'm not? The words sank into me like fire. For a second, I almost forgot who I was, why I was here, how broken I still felt. All I saw was this alpha with eyes like storm clouds and the terrifying calm of someone who didn't need to prove his power, because he already knew he had it. I forced myself to lean back, grabbing another towel to busy my hands. You've got that look, you know. The kind that makes people want to either run or fall at your feet. And you? His voice dipped, rich and sharp. Which one are you? I smirked, even as my pulse thundered. Neither. I don't follow rules. I noticed he said, You don't belong here. The words landed like a knife. Excuse me? I asked, sharper than I meant. His voice dipped low, steady as thunder. You heard me. You've got polish on your hands. That careful posture. That fake smile. Everything about you screams money, breeding, cages dressed as crowns. His lips curved, not soft, not kind, just knowing. So tell me, pretty boy, what are you running from? The nickname hit harder than the accusation. My chest tightened, heat rising to my ears. No one had ever spoken to me like that, like they saw through the flawless mask I'd spent years perfecting. I tried to scoff, leaning on the counter as if I wasn't rattled. Maybe I just like pouring drinks. Maybe I like the nightlife. No, he said simply, finally taking the glass. He lifted it in a slow, deliberate toast, eyes never leaving mine. You're hiding. But masks crack, pretty boy. And when yours does, he drained the whiskey, savoring it. I'll be there to see what's underneath. He set the glass down and slid off the stool, his presence still crowding the air long after he vanished into the neon blur. I hated the way my pulse raced. I hated the way his words lingered. And most of all, I hated that, for the first time, someone had looked at me and seen the truth. The club emptied slow, like a beast falling asleep. Stale beer clung to the air, and sticky glasses piled around me. I should have been used to it by now. Bartending wasn't glamorous, but my thoughts kept circling back to him. The man with the storm in his eyes. The one who called me pretty boy like he owned the words. The one who asked what I was running from. I hated how right he felt. I was wiping down the bar when I felt it, presence. Heavy. Watchful. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. You're still here, I muttered. Closing time, came that voice, smooth and dangerous. You shouldn't walk out of this place alone. I turned, scowling, only to freeze when I saw him leaning casually against the doorway. He didn't belong in the dim, sticky backroom of a bar any more than I did. You following me? I asked. His mouth curved. Maybe. Or maybe I'm making sure trouble doesn't find you. As if summoned, the night offered proof. A pair of drunk regulars stumbled past, one of them recognizing me. Hey, sweetheart, he slurred, reaching for my wrist. Pour me another, yeah? I jerked my hand back, but he was too quick. Before I could snap at him, the drunk was gone, slammed hard against the wall, a strong hand pinning him there. His voice dropped low, lethal. Touch him again, and you'll leave here in pieces." The drunk stammered, nodded, and bolted. My chest tightened. Not with fear. With something worse, recognition. The man wasn't just dangerous. He was alpha. And alphas were the last thing I needed. "You didn't have to do that," I said, trying for cold indifference. His gaze flicked over me, unreadable. "You didn't want me to?" I swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how close he was. "I can handle myself." "Maybe." His voice dropped even lower. "But I don't think you've handled anything real in your life, pretty boy." The nickname again. Sharp as a blade. I bristled, ready to snap, but he leaned in, crowding my space until I could smell the faint burn of whiskey on his breath. "Tell me your name." The demand hit harder than I expected. Names weren't just labels, they were ownership, intimacy. I hadn't been Halo here. Not really. I'd been whoever I wanted for once. So I stayed silent. His eyes glinted with something like amusement. "Fine. Keep your secrets. But I'll get it out of you." He stepped back, finally giving me room to breathe, though his presence lingered like smoke. And then he was gone, leaving me with the pounding of my own heart and a truth I didn't want to face. The night air bit cold against my skin as I stepped out the back of the club. The alley smelled of stale smoke and oil, and my breath puffed white in the chill. My shift was over, but my nerves weren't. I didn't notice the footsteps at first. Too distracted by replaying his voice in my head. The alpha with the sharp eyes and sharper words. The way he'd stared at me like he could see straight into the cracks I kept hidden. "Pretty boy." His voice haunted me even when he wasn't there. "Hey, sweetheart." A different voice slurred behind me. Rough. Unfamiliar. I turned too late. Two men stepped out of the shadows. Drunk. Grinning. The kind who didn't see an omega, only prey. "You're the bartender, right?" One of them sneered, reaching for me. "Bet you pour better when you're on your knees." I shoved him back, heart hammering. "Don't touch me." The other grabbed my arm, grip bruising. Panic clawed at my chest. My body knew what came next. My mask of control shattered into raw fear. But then, a blur. A fist. A sickening crack. The man holding me screamed, dropping to the ground. The other staggered back as a tall shadow stepped between us, radiating violence. Him. The alpha. He didn't even look at me. His eyes were locked on the men like they were insects under his boot. "You picked the wrong omega." His voice was calm. "Deadly. Try again, and you won't walk out of this alley." They ran. Of course they did. Silence fell heavy after their footsteps vanished. My knees threatened to give out, but I forced myself to stand tall. "You," my voice cracked. "How did you even find me?" He finally turned, eyes cutting into mine. "I own this city." The words rumbled low, certain. Every street. Every shadow. Every secret. He stepped closer, and I couldn't move, trapped by the weight of his presence. "And I make it my business to know yours." My throat tightened. "You don't even know my name." A slow, dangerous smile curved his mouth. "Not yet. But I will. And when I do," he leaned down, close enough that his breath brushed my ear. "You'll be mine." The world tilted. My pulse screamed. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't free. I wasn't invisible. I'd been claimed. "I don't belong to you." The words tore out of me like broken glass. My wrist still burned where he held it, though his grip was loose enough for me to yank free if I wanted. Rafe didn't even flinch. He just stood there, tall, unshakable, his presence eating the alley whole. His eyes dragged over me, hot and unyielding, like he was daring me to keep lying. "You saved me," I said, my voice sharp but unsteady. "But don't mistake that for ownership. I don't owe you anything." He leaned closer, his body heat bleeding into mine until the bricks at my back felt cold in comparison. "You think I stepped in for thanks?" His mouth twisted into something dark, hungry. "No one else here touches what's mine." My chest lurched painfully, my blood rushing faster than I wanted. Not mine, I wanted to scream. "Not yours." But the words stuck in my throat. "You don't even know me," I spat instead, shoving at him. He barely moved. "You don't get to claim me. You don't get to decide who I belong to." For a moment, he just looked at me. Not with anger, but with an infuriating patience, like he was watching a bird struggle in a cage it didn't realize was already open. Then his lips curved slowly. "Then tell me," he murmured. "Your name." My chest tightened. My name had always been a mask, a shield, a burden. Giving it to him felt like surrendering a piece of myself I wasn't sure I could get back. But his eyes held me, heavy and relentless, until the words slipped out before I could stop it. "Halo." Rafe's expression shifted. Something flickered there, recognition, interest, something dangerous and warm. He rolled the name on his tongue like he was tasting it. Halo. His smile sharpened. A holy name for someone who's anything but. He leaned in, his breath hot at my ear, his voice dipping into a whisper that made my knees weaken. Angel Cato. Fallen angel. The way he said it, low, possessive, almost reverent, made heat bloom under my skin, sharp and unwanted. I'm not yours, I forced out again, even as my pulse betrayed me. Rafe only smirked, stepping back with the kind of confidence that told me he didn't believe a single word. You can keep denying me, Angel Cato, he said smoothly. But sooner or later you'll fall. The bar was crowded tonight. Music pounded through the speakers, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder on the dance floor, neon light flickered across sweaty faces. I liked nights like this. The chaos muffled the noise in my head. The laughter, the shouting, the clinking glasses. They were loud enough to drown out the things I didn't want to hear. But even here, even in all this noise, I could still feel him. Rafe. Sitting in his usual spot at the far end of the counter, silent, brooding, nursing a whiskey that never seemed to empty. He'd been coming every night since the alley. 3 days. 3 nights. Always at the same table, always with the same expression, always with those eyes on me. I hated it. I hated him. And most of all, I hated myself for how my chest tightened every time I looked up and found him watching. By the time last call rolled around, my nerves were frayed. My rag slapped against the counter harder than necessary, and when I glanced up, there he was again, calm, immovable, patient. Are you planning to stare holes through me forever? I snapped, marching over. Or are you going to let me close in peace? His mouth curved, slow and deliberate. You clean faster when I'm here. I froze, rag still in my hand. Excuse me? I'm helping, he said simply. A sharp laugh broke from me before I could stop it. Helping? You're in my way. Your way, he repeated softly, like he was testing the words. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the bar, his gaze pinning me like I was the only thing worth seeing. Tell me, Halo, what exactly is your way? Hiding behind bottles? Pretending this place is yours. My jaw clenched. Pretending this place is yours. I didn't ask him how he knew that. How he could see the fragile illusion I'd built for myself. That here, at least, I wasn't the perfect son, wasn't the golden omega, wasn't the brother left behind. Here, I was just a bartender. Invisible. Free. I didn't ask. Because I didn't want the answer. You don't know me, I bit out. His eyes didn't waver. Maybe not yet. But I make it my business to know the people who matter in this city. Something in the way he said it twisted in my stomach, sharp and unsettling. Like the walls of the bar weren't walls at all. Like maybe I wasn't as free as I thought. Stop talking like that, I snapped, turning away. But his voice followed me, low and steady. You want me to stop because you know I'm right. My grip tightened on the rag. My mask threatened to crack. I shoved it back on, forced myself to keep moving, keep working, anything to ignore the fire under my skin. The last drunk staggered out, the neon sign flickered off, and the bar finally emptied. I was left alone with him. I hated the silence. Why are you here? I demanded finally, tossing the rag onto the counter. What do you want from me? He rose from his seat. My chest tightened as he came closer, his shadow stretching long across the floor. He stopped right in front of me, too close, his presence swallowing the space around us. What do I want? He repeated, voice low. His eyes swept over me, slow, deliberate, unhurried. The truth. Nothing more. I laughed bitterly. You think you're going to get that from me? I already am. And before I could argue, his hand lifted, hesitant but steady, and brushed against mine on the counter. My body went rigid. The heat of his skin bled into mine, and in that instant, something snapped. It was like fire shot through me, searing straight to my bones. My chest clenched, my throat closed, and my pulse thundered so loud it drowned out everything else. The bond. I felt it. For the first time in my life, undeniable and raw. The invisible thread tying us together, pulling me toward him like gravity. My breath caught. My mask shattered. Rafe's eyes widened just slightly, like he felt it too. Then his lips curved, dark and knowing. There it is. I yanked my hand back like I'd been burned, stumbling a step away. No, my voice cracked. No. Not you. Yes, me. His voice was calm, but there was hunger behind it. Possession. You feel it. Stop pretending you don't. I don't want this, I rasped, shaking my head. My heart was racing too fast, my body betraying me with every beat. I can't. He stepped closer, closing the space I'd tried to create. His hand braced against the counter beside me, his body caging mine without touching. "Then fight it," he murmured. His forehead brushed mine, his breath hot against my lips. "Fight it with everything you've got. But it won't change the truth." The bond hummed between us, electric and alive, pulling me closer with every breath. My knees trembled. My chest ached. And then, against all the fear, all the anger, all the denial, I leaned in. Just slightly. Just enough. Our lips met. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't sweet. It was desperate, raw, hungry, a collision more than a kiss. His hand caught the back of my neck, holding me in place, and for one dizzying moment I let myself drown in it. The bond roared, flooding through me like fire and lightning, tearing apart everything I thought I knew. And then, just as quickly, panic surged. I shoved him back, gasping for air, my fingers trembling against my lips. "This can't happen," I whispered, voice broken. "I won't let it." Rafe didn't push. He didn't argue. He just looked at me with eyes that burned like they already owned me. "You can run, Angel Cato," he said softly, his voice a promise. "But the bond doesn't lie. And sooner or later, you'll fall." I kept telling myself it was nothing. Just a kiss. Just a moment of weakness. If I lied to myself hard enough, maybe the memory would stop clawing at me. Maybe my lips would stop burning every time I remembered the way his mouth pressed against mine. But the bond didn't let me forget. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. His voice. That word. Mine. It branded me worse than fire. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I avoided him. For 2 nights, I skipped the bar, claiming I was sick. In reality, I was terrified. Not of Rafe himself, but of what I felt when I was near him. Of the way my chest tightened like he was pulling me apart and putting me back together all at once. But hiding didn't help. The bond gnawed at me, restless, relentless, as if my own body wanted to betray me. By the 3rd night, I couldn't stand the suffocating silence of my apartment. I dragged myself back to work, tray in hand, mask in place. Of course, he was there. Sitting in his usual corner, black shirt unbuttoned just enough to tease, tattoo curling at his collarbone. Rafe looked like he owned the entire damn room. He didn't fit in with the smoke and neon, but somehow he commanded it. His eyes found me instantly. And then came that smirk. I hated that smirk, because it meant he already knew. I forced myself to keep moving, to laugh too loudly with customers, to pretend I didn't feel the weight of his gaze following me. By the time I ducked into the stockroom to breathe, my chest ached from the act. The door clicked shut behind me. "You've been avoiding me." I jumped, tray nearly slipping from my hands. He stood by the door, arms folded, eyes locked on me, blocking my escape. My throat tightened. "You shouldn't be back here. Answer me." His voice was calm, but it vibrated with something dangerous. I glared, even as my heart pounded. "I don't owe you anything. You owe me honesty," he said, stepping closer. I hated the way the air thickened with each step. "There's nothing to say." "You mean the kiss?" Heat flared across my face. "It was nothing. Heat of the moment. Forget it. Lies don't suit you, Angel." The word dug into me, familiar and unbearable. I shoved at him, but he caught my wrist. His grip wasn't cruel. It was steady grounding. Sparks shot up my arm, curling into my chest, and I froze. "Your body doesn't lie," he murmured, leaning in so close I could feel his breath against my skin. "You felt it too." For a heartbeat, I almost gave in. My pride snapped before my heart could. "I won't be claimed," I hissed, tearing my wrist free. This time he let me go. A slow, knowing smile curved his lips. "Run if you want, Angel Cato." His Spanish rolled off his tongue like velvet. "I'll be here when you're done pretending." Fallen Angel. The name haunted me long after I left the stockroom. I tried everything to quiet the bond. Longer shifts, more drinks, longer walks through the city. But no matter what I did, the fire under my skin wouldn't cool. 2 nights later, I made the mistake of drinking with coworkers after closing. Too many beers, too much forced laughter, and the ground tilted beneath me when I stepped into the night. My foot slipped on the curb, and before I could hit the pavement, a steady arm wrapped around my waist. "Careful, Angel." The voice slid straight through me. My stomach dropped. "Rafe." He looked down at me, sharp-jawed and steady as if he'd been waiting. Which, knowing him, he probably had. "You've been running again," he said simply, tightening his hold when I tried to pull away. "Not from you," I lied. The words sounded weak even to me. Rafe smirked. "Then why are you trembling?" "I'm not," my voice cracked. Humiliation burned my throat. He leaned down, lips brushing my ear. I can wait, Halo. But not forever. A shiver ran through me, traitorous and hot. By the time we reached my door, I was desperate to get away. I yanked free and slammed it shut before he could say another word. I stood there, chest heaving, back pressed against the wood. My hand slid unconsciously to my lips. I cursed myself for how badly I still wanted more. The next night, chaos found me again. The bar was packed, voices rising, chairs scraping. A fight broke out near the back, glass shattering. I cursed under my breath, balancing a tray as I tried to weave around the mess. Wrong move. Someone shoved me, and I stumbled straight toward the fight. Before I could be crushed between them, a hand yanked me back. Rafe. Always Rafe. He stepped forward, his presence swallowing the room. One sharp growl in Spanish, low and dangerous, and the fight died instantly. Like the whole bar had remembered who owned this city. He didn't let go of me. Not when the room settled, not when people turned back to their drinks, pretending nothing had happened. His hand stayed locked around my arm as he dragged me into the back room. You're reckless, he snapped, slamming the door shut. His eyes burned into me. Do you want to get hurt? I tore my arm free, voice shaking. I can handle myself. No, he said, stepping closer, pinning me against the wall with nothing but his presence. Not with this. My chest tightened. This. His hand lifted, brushing a strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered, soft against my cheek. Too much. Too close. Us, he said. I shook my head, words spilling raw and shaky. Why? Why me? His gaze softened for the first time. Because you were always mine. And then his lips were on mine. I didn't mean to melt. I didn't mean to open for him, to let the fire roar through me like it had been waiting for this moment. But the bond snapped into place, searing through every nerve, every inch of me. I trembled, fists clenched at my sides, caught between resistance and surrender. When he finally pulled back, my body betrayed me completely. My forehead fell against his chest, breath ragged, his heartbeat steady under my ear. Mine, Angel Cato, he murmured against my hair. Always mine. This time, I didn't fight him. New York had a way of swallowing secrets. The city was too loud, too alive, for anyone to notice a man like me hiding in plain sight. Behind the bar, I poured drinks and traded smirks, letting strangers believe whatever they wanted about me. A mystery. A pretty face. A fallen angel. Rafe's nickname still burned on my skin. Angel Cato. He'd whispered it like a claim, like he'd peeled away the masks I'd spent years crafting and seen the rot beneath. And yet, he hadn't turned away. Weeks had passed since he saved me, since I stopped resisting the pull between us. And God, how I'd fallen. Rafe wasn't gentle. Not in the way I once thought love had to be. He was sharp edges, smoke, and iron. He kissed like a storm, held me like I might disappear, and taught me freedom didn't come from perfection but surrender. And for the first time in my life, I surrendered. But at night, when his arms caged me against his chest, guilt slithered in. Not about us. About Eli. My brother's face haunted me. The softness I mocked, the freedom I hated, the warmth I punished because I couldn't have it for myself. And no matter how Rafe claimed me, no matter how deep I drowned in his shadow, that guilt clung to me like a second skin. One night, after I'd gone quiet for too long, Rafe caught my chin, forcing me to look at him. His storm-dark eyes were merciless. You're not here, he said. I am, I lied. No, his voice was low, dangerous in its certainty. You're with your ghosts. I tried to turn away, but his grip held me fast. Tell me. I broke then. The words tumbled out, raw and ugly. I ruined my brother. I hated him for being free when I was trapped, and I made him pay for it. Over and over. And now he's found happiness, and my throat closed. And I don't deserve this. Not you. Not any of this. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then Rafe leaned in, brushing his lips just below my ear. Good, he whispered. My eyes snapped open. Good. Because it means you finally see it. And now, Angel, you can fix it. His thumb swept across my jaw, possessive, unyielding. Go. Face him. Tell him the truth. I'll still be here when you come back to me. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order. And maybe that's why I listened. I told myself 1,000 times on the plane that I should turn back. That Eli didn't need me. That Jasper sure as hell didn't want me. And that I would only make things worse by showing up. But Rafe's words burned in my head, sharp, commanding, impossible to ignore. Fix it, Angel, or it will keep eating you alive. So I came back. The taxi ride to their apartment felt like punishment. Every red light mocked me. Every turn felt heavier than the last. By the time I stood in front of their door, my palms were sweating, and the walls I'd spent years perfecting were already crumbling. I almost left. Almost turned around and caught the next flight back to New York. Back to Rafe's possessive arms where I could drown instead of face this. But then the door opened, and Jasper was standing there. He looked every inch the CEO, broad shoulders, expensive shirt rolled at the sleeves, hair slicked back. But there was something sharper in his gaze now, something that cut through me like glass. He didn't say my name, didn't even move to let me in, just looked at me as if daring me to try. Is Eli here? My voice was raw, almost breaking. His jaw tightened, but before he could slam the door in my face, another voice floated from inside. Soft, tired, achingly familiar. Jasper? Who is it? And then Eli appeared. He had a baby cradled against his chest. My throat closed instantly. The tiny bundle shifted, a small sound escaping, and Eli rocked him gently with a motion that looked too natural, too easy. My brother. The boy I'd tormented, resented, hated, standing there with the life he'd made. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Eli's eyes widened when they landed on me. His mouth parted, shock flashing across his face. Then cautiously he said, "Halo." I forced myself to speak. "Can I come in?" Jasper's eyes narrowed, clearly ready to refuse. But Eli, ever soft, ever too kind, touched his arm. And to my shock, Jasper stepped aside. Inside, the apartment was warm. Lived in. Family pictures already lined a shelf, Eli and Jasper, smiling, with the baby swaddled between them. My stomach twisted at the sight. This was everything I once thought I deserved. Everything I told myself Eli could never hold on to. And yet here it was real. Unshakable. I sank into the chair Eli offered. My hands wouldn't stay still. I twisted them in my lap like a guilty child. Finally, I said it. The words that had been rotting inside me for years. "I hated you." The air went still. Eli flinched, and Jasper's posture sharpened, ready to tear me apart if I pushed too far. But I pressed on, because running wasn't an option anymore. "I hated you because you were free in ways I couldn't be. You laughed too loud, you made mistakes, you lived, while I was choking myself with perfection. And I couldn't stand it. I wanted to tear it from you, to ruin it, so maybe I wouldn't feel so small next to you." My chest heaved. My voice cracked. And then Jasper. God, I told myself he belonged to me, that fate had cheated me when it gave him to you. But the truth is, I never loved him the way you did. I wanted him because he saw me. Because for a moment, I thought he might make the emptiness stop. And when he chose you, I couldn't forgive either of you. I dragged a trembling hand across my face. Every cruel word, every knife I twisted, it was jealousy. Not because you were weak, Eli, but because you were strong in ways I couldn't be. And I need you to know that I was wrong. About all of it. Silence swallowed the room. The baby stirred, letting out a soft cry. Eli soothed him gently, his amber eyes shimmering as he looked at me. Jasper's voice was the first to break the quiet. Cold. Razor sharp. You said once that Eli would ruin me. That being with him would destroy everything I'd built. His glare burned into me. Look at us now, Halo. Do we look ruined to you? My gut twisted. I shook my head. No. You look whole. For the first time in years, I let myself cry. Not angry tears. Not manipulative ones. Just raw, broken sobs that tore out of me as if they'd been waiting since childhood. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so damn sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I couldn't keep carrying it anymore. Eli looked at me then, not with pity, not even with anger. Just sadness. Deep, aching sadness. You broke me, Halo, he said quietly. More times than I can count. And I won't pretend it didn't leave scars. I bowed my head, shame burning. But, he shifted the baby gently, eyes softening. I can see you're trying now. And maybe that's enough. For today. I swallowed hard, nodding. Thank you, I whispered. Jasper didn't speak again. But when he looked at Eli, then back at me, the hostility in his eyes had dimmed, just slightly. Enough to say he'd tolerate me, if only for Eli's sake. It was more grace than I deserved. I left their apartment lighter than I'd arrived, though the guilt still lingered. Some wounds would never vanish. But I'd faced them. I'd spoken the truth. And that mattered. Rafe was waiting at the airport when I returned to New York. The moment he spotted me, he pushed past security lines, grabbed my wrist, and yanked me into him with a force that stole my breath. His mouth crashed against mine, hungry, demanding, possessive. When he pulled back, his voice was rough. You did it. I nodded, still dazed. I did. Good. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb brushing my cheek as if sealing me to him. Now stop running from ghosts on hell. You're mine. Always. And for the first time in my life, I believed it. This time, home wasn't a cage. It was a choice. It was Rafe.